welcome back to the channel. So as you saw in my other video that I posted, I just got this thing finished painted, and what I'm currently doing now is I got all the trim that I took off the car and got them painted and glossed up. This is currently the windshield trim right here. This goes around the windshield. What I've currently run across is there's this kind of grime stuff that I have to get off of here, because if I put the trim on, you kind of see this white kind of dusty stuff around the windshield trim, and I don't want that to happen. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a razor, I'm slowly scraping it off, and as I go around, I'm going to go after it with some goof off and then maybe some alcohol, just try to clean it up as best as I could, so that way when I put the trim on, it's going to look really nice and actually complete. I also went ahead and painted the side skirts and the front bumper and air dam. So those are ready to go, get put back on the car. I'm gonna have to run up to Harbor Freight and get some push pins, and then I need to fix one attachment point that goes right here, so that way I can mount the side skirts again. And then on the side skirt that goes on this side, I'm gonna have to put some kind of metal plate in between the exhaust tip and the side skirt itself. That way it doesn't melt more than it already has. But yeah, additionally, I've also painted the headlight surrounds and clear coated them so they look really glossy, super nice. Here they are, super glossy, super nice. They look almost brand spanking new. I'm really happy how they turned out. I've also gone ahead and put on the rear side markers, and those I got from Amazon, and I love that they are single line LED. They look really clean. Additionally, I got some new brake light lenses on there. Those look really clean. So the whole car is getting put back together, but today I'm focusing on the trim. So if you guys want to watch, I'm gonna go ahead and put the trim back together. I've already installed the brand new windshield trim retainer clips. These I got off of Amazon for about 10 bucks and already installed them. The old ones were really old and rusty and decrepit, and I don't think they would have lasted much longer on there, so I had them replaced. So what I'm doing is basically just taking a normal old razor and just going along here and just scraping what I can. As you can see, I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, there's a little bit of dust on there. That's just years of road grime that have just been piling up on this thing. And what I really want to do is make sure that it comes all off and it's nice and clean. That way it kind of looks like a brand new windshield. And then it's not kind of, the brand new trim and the new paint isn't hiding just dirt. So what I want to do is just try to go along the lines, scrape as much as I can off before I hit it with some chemicals. And no, I'm not scraping the glass with a razor. If I was going this way, it would score it, but obviously I'm not. I'm just going that way laterally with it, nice and flat up against the glass, just so I can scrape off any kind of that dust and material and road grime that's been on here for years. Here's a good example of areas that I had just scraped versus areas that I haven't been scraped off yet. So I just finished getting that off the corner there, and now I need to try and get that off. But that's the stuff around the windshield that I'm trying to get off, so it doesn't look all dirty and grimy. Even though this is a used windshield that I got out of a 1987 Omni in Texas a couple years ago. Alright, so the windshield is nice and clean. I'm going to start putting on the trim. So the way this works is just kind of sits here on the bottom. And on the inside lip of the trim, there is a tiny little lip just on the inside there. There's that lip that the clips in here catch on. So what I have to do is this part here, for instance, this will slide into here, and then I basically just gently press down and then it just clicks into place. At least that's the plan. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just go ahead and insert that into there and just kind of get it preset for me to put it onto the car. And the top trim is basically these two pieces here, and they slide together to form just one solid piece, and then they go up top here. So basically they look like that. So I'm gonna get a couple of them snapped in and then I'll come right back. Okay, so I learned something real quick. So what you're going to want to do if you have some trim that interlocks like this up here, and they're in the middle and they're in the corners, they do just snap into place. So what you're going to want to do is go ahead and loosely assemble them to where they're slid together, but they're loose enough to where you can slide them and adjust them. But start at a corner and start pressing them down. They literally just snap into place. So if I just go right here, it just snaps into place just like so. And as you move, you're going to want to adjust how far or down or how far up your trim needs to go. I just started on this corner, and once I snapped this top piece into place, I realized that it was kind of snug down here, which means I would not have been able to put this top trim down onto this part because the side trim slides up into the top trim. So I'm going to go around the entire edge of the trim, get it all fitted and placed in there, and then we'll be right back. All right, and that's how the trim is installed. Pretty straightforward and easy, not too difficult. Just takes a little bit of extra force and it'll seat right in there. Looks pretty dang good, looks pretty sharp. So next thing I need to move on to is I need to move on to putting the side body molding onto the side of the car here that goes along this little channel. And I have some double bonded molding tape that I'll be putting on to those strips, and then we just slap them on, make sure they're good and square. Alright, so the next thing we're going to be doing is putting on the side molding for the side of the car. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply it using this 3M Auto Super Strength molding tape. We got it from AutoZone. And we made sure that since these body trim molding pieces are 3/4 of an inch wide, we got stuff that is 1/2 inch wide. That way, as we apply it, it's not overlapping or becoming too apparent that we have body molding tape on the back side. So the first thing that we're going to do before we apply our body molding is we got to clean the portion that we're going to be putting the body molding on. So I'm going to be using some rubbing alcohol to clean it up. And if you didn't know, a run-of-the-mill store-bought sprayer tip will actually attach straight to a bottle, so you can have sprayable alcohol. So what I'm going to do is take a clean rag. We're going to go ahead and just spritz the area. And give it a good wipe down. Make sure it's nice and clean for the tape to apply. And then we're just going to let that air dry. So the next step is if you have multiple pieces of body molding like I do, there's 6 pieces on each side, you got to know which piece goes where. And the way I did that is on the back side there, I wrote D1, so I know that it is driver's side 1, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. Same thing for the passenger side, I just put P1, P2, P3, P4, P5, P6. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to lay this out. We're going to spray this down. And give it a good wipe down just to make sure that it's clean and to promote good adhesion. I've gone ahead and scraped off what glue and residue that I could, although you still see it, but it's pretty flat, so the new tape should just go on pretty easily. So we're going to lay this down. We're going to take our tape, we're going to lay it across. Just like so. And when we get to the end here, we're going to cut it to match the end. We don't want it sticking out too far. We're just want enough to where it'll stick onto the car. So once we have the tape onto the molding, what we're going to do is just press firmly down and make sure that it really sticks to that molding. We don't want any pieces of the tape to have any kind of bubbles or loose parts. So what I'm doing is just going through and just pressing down nice and firm to make sure that the tape stays on. Okay, so now that we have the tape on here, what we need to do is figure out how far forward or how far back that we need to actually place this tape. And then once we have a pretty good idea of where it needs to be, we're going to peel this backing piece of the red tape off, and we're going to stick it on and put firm pressure onto the outside of the molding to really make sure that the tape grabs hold of the panel. And then we're going to let it sit for a little while and move on to the next piece of the molding. So for me, I want to make sure that I have at least half an inch on either side of the front and the back. So since this is flexible, I'm going to see which way it wants to flex more. If it wants to bend down that way, or if it wants to kind of support its way up like that. Whichever one follows the body channel a little bit better. And it seems like this orientation where I flipped it is probably the better orientation. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to start peeling on this end, just like so. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to peel about a foot off. That way I can apply it, and then I can just follow the channel across and make sure that it's actually following the lines like I want it to. So I'm going to go ahead and stick it right about there. That's where I want it. And I'm just going to apply light pressure as I go. And then I've reached the point where I can actually just start peeling the tape as I walk down the panel, making sure that the body molding stays exactly where I want it to, nice and centered inside the panel. So I've gone ahead and pulled enough of that tape off. I'm just going to make sure it seats right inside the mold. Okay, that's exactly where I wanted it. So now all I got to do is just put firm pressure and make sure that that molding actually seats against the panel. And just like that, we've installed the side body trim. So all we have to do is just go down the rest of the panel of the car with the same technique, and then the side body trim is on. Alright guys, so we're on the last panel. We've already done the rest of the driver's side. It looks fantastic. All we have to do is just clean up this last panel, give it a once and for all wipe down, and make sure it's nice and clean. Then we're going to do the same thing with the remaining body trim. Just going to give it a quick spritz up and down. And then we're just going to go ahead and wipe that down, make sure it's nice and clean before we put the trim on to the car. Also, as you can see, the last piece there says D6. That means it's the last piece that goes on the car based on the driver's side. So what we're going to go ahead and do is this onto the molding tape. And with our scissors, we're just going to cut that last little bit off. Just like so. Press it down nice and firm. Once that's nice and pressed on, we're going to go ahead and apply it to the panel. This side here has a little bit of a shape to it, so we know that it actually goes on here where it matches up against the door, whereas the other end is nice and flat, so that side will go on to the tail because it just kind of shuts off towards the end here. So all we got to do is just peel this piece here. So again, peeling off about a foot or so. That way I can manipulate it up and down as I go down the panel. Place it right here. What I'm going to go ahead and do is a little bit different. I want to make sure that the end of the panel is actually going to match first, so it's not kind of sticking too far off the back or it's not too far forward. So I'm just going to kind of butt up the rear of the trim, which still has the red tape on it. Just kind of line it up, make sure I'm exactly where I need to be. looks like right there is going to be where we're going to seat it. So I'm just going to press firmly there, grab the remaining tape, go ahead and pull that down off. We're just going to follow the channel, make sure it stays nice in the middle. And then we'll finally give it a good press onto the panel, make sure it's seated. And that's it. So all we have to do is basically apply the same kind of principles as on the driver's side over to the passenger side, and then we have all the trim onto the car. So cool. Tomorrow I'm going to move on to putting the side skirts on and the bumper and the front grille guard, but I think that's going to be pretty much a wrap for this video. Thanks guys for watching. If you don't mind, hit that like and subscribe down there button. I actually would like to try and get this channel boosted up a little bit. I've been on YouTube for a little over 15 years now, and I'd like to take it a little bit more seriously. So if you guys like this content, if you like this car, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm not in it for the money. I'm just looking for some cool people to hang out with and to kind of show off of what I do. So cool. Thanks.